welcome to Darvanalee Designs Studio. My name's Nicole Reed and today we're going to be making an iPad or tablet cover for your tablet. It also has magnetic snaps on it, so I'll show you how to do that. If you have never installed one before, well then this is the video for you. So let's get started. Okay, so we're just going to collect a few things together. You're going to need some exterior fabric, some lining fabric, some fusible foam, and also some woven interfacing, a rotary cutter, some thread snips, a marking device, I just use friction pen, some wonder clips. You're also going to, for the closures, you're going to need some 14mm or 18mm magnetic snaps, so I've got 2 of those. You're going to need a couple of little pieces of Peltex which go behind those magnetic snaps to just give them a little bit more reinforcement, and you'll need 4 of those. I've only got 2 here, so I've got to cut another 2. And about a 1-inch square is plenty of that, and that's all I really use behind any of my magnetic snaps. I just use the Peltex. It just gives it that little bit more sturdiness. You'll need some wonder clips, and you might be wondering why I have an empty container here. You'll need something that has is round, so you can round off your corners, and I just use this little dish. I have it there. It's perfect for it. It just sits on the corner. I can draw a line out around it, and then I can snip away that excess fabric. Okay, so if you want a full list of what we've got going on here, you can find that on our blog, and that's linked up down below. Your measurements are going to vary from person to person, and it will depend on the tablet that you have. This one basically is made for my particular tablet, which is a 10.5 by about a 6 1/4 in height. So I've made the measurements for this particular tablet. If you have any questions on how to make one for yours, just basically put the measurements down below and I can give you the measurements of the fabric requirements that you need. Or alternatively, you can join our Facebook group, which is linked up down below, and you can ask me a question there. I'm always around to answer questions. Okay, so we're going to get started. Basically what you're going to do first and foremost is you're going to fuse your exterior fabric is going to have the foam on it. So I've already fused that off camera. Okay, and you're also going to put your woven interfacing on your lining fabric. Okay, so we've done that already, and now I want to round off my corners. Okay, so I'm just going to grab my little jar that I've got here for the rounded edge, and all I'm going to do is just place that up, and so the edge of the jar is touching the edge of the fabric, and I'm just going to take a little bit off the top there, and hopefully this will work. You can see it on camera, so you can see there I've just rounded it off. It's not super sharp, it's not, you can do it freehand, but I always like to make my marks, so I'll bring that up so you can see it. There you go. So you just make a slight mark there, and we're just going to trim that off. And you repeat for the other side. And this is now the top of your iPad cover. So you can set that aside, and then just grab your scissors and trim that off. And repeat for the other side as well. And down. So there we go. That is all curved. I'm just going to get rid of that excess interfacing there that's coming out. Alrighty. So you can see there we've got a nice curve. I could probably take a little bit more off the side here because I've just got a little bit of a sharp edge, so I'll just round that off a little bit more, and there we go. Okay, so now we've done that, we're going to repeat that for the lining, and this is where it gets nice and easy. We just lay our lining piece down and we line our fabric up, and then you can just get your rotary cutter and cut that off. You can use it as a template. So now we have both our lining and our exterior with our rounded corners. So this is actually going to become your flap of the iPad case. So we'll set that lining aside, and now what we're going to do is we're going to make a couple of marks on the inside of the tablet cover to make sure that our tablet is sitting in the right spot, and also that our flap is coming far enough down to keep it nice and secure. So basically what I do is I sort of just eyeball it and put it in the center, and then bring up the bottom flat edge up, and I can see that that needs to come up just a little bit more, making sure that it's very straight and everything like that. And I can see that that has given me a nice size flap for the front of it, and that will make it a lot easier to put my magnetic snaps in and all the rest of it. Alrighty, so I'm pretty happy with how that's going, and it's also giving me enough depth inside here that it's not poking up, like my tablet's not poking up like this. It's actually nice and secure, and the screen's covered and everything is inside the pouch. So I just bring that down and make sure that that is how I want it. I make sure that everything's going straight and it's looking absolutely perfect. So what I do is I actually just put a line on the front of my tablet to know where my flap, where I want my flap to finish, basically. Obviously that is going to be up a little bit more with seam allowance, but it just gives me a rough idea where the flap is going to sit. So I make that mark, and you can see that there. And then I make this mark here and here on this side and there as well. Okay, so that's where I want that internal piece to come up to. So you can see that that's going to be still a good amount. And then what I do is just on the side here, and I don't know whether you can see that or not, I just pinch it and make a mark there. And then I know that that is the line of where the bottom of my tablet's going to sit. So I've just made those marks there. Okay, so that's going to be broken into thirds. Now what I want to measure, I just want to join those lines from across to each other, and that just serves as a reminder of where everything's going to go. So I can take my tablet away now. I don't need that there. And again, I just join these lines up over here, making sure it's nice and straight. Okay, so I know that my tablet's going to sit in that section. So now what I've got to do is make a mark for where my magnetic snaps are going to go. Now I want these to basically, where my flap is going to sit, I want them to be about 1.25 inches up from where that is. So where that line is, just there, and about 3 inches in. So first things first, I'm going to make a mark for the 3 inches in from the side. 2, 3. And then from this line here, which I'm going to extend, and I'm using an erasable pen in this video. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to come up from that line about 1.25. So there's the 3 inch mark, and I'm coming up 1.25. And then I do the same on this side here. Okay, so now what we're going to do is we're going to get our little washer, which is what comes with our magnetic snaps. So it sits on the back of it, and then we crush those down. But I'll show you what I do now. I basically put that center dot on there, and I grab my pen again, and I just make, there's like little slits in it. I just make a mark there and a mark there, and I do the same on the other side over here. And this is just a guide for me of where I've got to make my cuts so I can insert the female part of the magnetic snap. Okay, and the female part of the snap looks like that. It's got an indentation, and that's the male part, which has got the bit that sits into it, just like so. Okay, so I just need to make a little snip. So I just grab my little thread snips, and I just fold it, and I just cut with the tips on that line. You can use your quick unpick, but sometimes they can move a little bit fast for my liking, and you can make a mess of it. But I just find this the easiest. I just fold it over and snip that through. Then I get my magnetic snap, the female part of it, and I just pop them in like so. Okay, then I open it up, and then I just grab my little pieces of Peltex, and make a couple of little snips, and then that will just slide over the top of that like so. And then I get my little washer, and I pop that on there like that. Now these are quite, you can bend these with your fingers. Sometimes they can be a little bit tricky, and when the smaller ones, they are a little bit hard to do. So what I tend to do is I just use the edge of my ruler, and I just get that to start to bend, and then I can just use my thumb for the rest of it. And that's it. It's secured in place. And then I just repeat for the other side. Okay, so that just goes on there like so. I don't worry about doing any measurements on my little bits of Peltex because they are just a bit of extra stabilizer, because you are popping these open and closed. It just makes it a little bit more secure. We grab our washer and pop that on like so. And again, I just grab my ruler. I don't like to use clamping tools or anything like that. There are tools that you can get. I just find it damages the, even when I've used a piece of fabric on it, it still makes it a little bit scuffed. Alrighty, so they're in, and now we're going to do the same for the lining. So there's our lining piece, and it's really easy if you're using a light fabric to make all your marks. You can see through the fabric. So I just again put the mark there off the template of the exterior fabric. Okay, and I know that that's where it's going to sit, so I can make that line now directly across. So just join them up, and I can, once all this is in, I can actually just iron these marks off. It's before I sew it all together, because I don't actually need them to sew. I can, once these snaps are in, it'll just fall where it falls, and that's as easy as that. Alrighty, so we're bringing this up again, and this is coming over at that crease mark. Now what we're going to do, we're going to make the same marks as before. So we're going to come in 3 inches from the side, and not from the curved side, from the straight edge. So you'll need to go up a little bit and just make a little mark as a guide, and do the same on the other side. Okay, and you're just going to come up 1 1/4 from the bottom edge again. There's my 1 1/4, make a dot. Then again, I just grab my little washer, so make the mark on the other side as well. And now we're ready to put our little magnetic snaps in. So again, you just repeat exactly the same thing, except this time you're using the male pieces of the magnetic snap. Make a little snip. So on the right side of the fabric is where the clasp is going to go. And repeat for the other side, and then flip it over. Okay, so we've inserted those in. So now what we're going to do is, this is the wrong side of the fabric. Okay, so our snaps go onto the right side of the fabric. Make sure that you put them in the right spot. Then we're going to get our little pieces of Peltex again, and we're going to put a couple of snips into it like so, and then we're going to put that there. Then our washer goes over the top of that, and then I just grab my ruler. I do find the 18mm magnetic snaps a lot easier to handle when doing this part of it, but I like the finish of the smaller ones. So we grab our second piece, make a couple of snips, slide that on. Okay, so that's it. The snaps are now in. So now we're up to assembling all of our pieces. So you've got your exterior and your lining, and you're going to place them right sides together. Then you're going to grab some wonder clips, and you're just going to pin them all together. Okay, and once that's done, down the bottom, you're going to make a mark of where you're going to turn that through. Actually, I'll make that a little bit bigger. Okay. So you're going to start here and you're going to sew along there, turn, pivot, come around, and then you're going to back stitch here when you finish, and then we'll turn it through. And we're going to use a 1/4 inch seam allowance. Okay, so we're all clipped together, so now we can head over to the sewing machine and we can sew that together. Okay, so we've sewn that all together. You can see there that we've sewn a 1/4 inch seam allowance all the way around. We've caught all our fabrics in. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab my pinking shears, or you can just use your normal scissors and just make little snips in the curve, but I just use my pinking shears. It just makes for a quick process. And I just get rid of some of that bulk up the top there. Pinked our curved edges, and just down the bottom here I like to just snip away my excess, being careful not to snip into the threads where I've stitched, and I just get rid of some of that bulk there as well. Okay, so now we're ready to turn that in. So pop your hand in all the way in. Okay, so it's turning through nicely. Poke your corners out. Make your edges all nice and rounded. So what we're going to do down here, I like to just, where I made that mark, the reason I make it on the foam side is because I know that I can just snip that little bit out. So I'll just grab my scissors. Actually, my smaller ones would be a bit better. So what I do, because it doesn't always stay fused there when you turn it through, so I just sort of peel it back and just get rid of some of that excess foam there, just so I can turn that under and top stitch that closed. So I'll get rid of that excess, and I'll just make it, the fabric will just go over the top of that, and our lining will close together. Use a couple of pins to close it, and then we'll be ready to top stitch that bottom edge there. Okay, so what I do now is I give that a really good press and get rid of all these marks and everything like that. But before I do, I just like to make sure that I just pop a pin in where I want the bottom edge to come up. So that's the only one that I sort of make a mark. So I'll go and give that a press, get rid of all those marks, and then we'll be ready to do the final assembly of our pouch. Okay, so we've pressed everything into place. Now what we're going to do is we're actually going to just top stitch this bit here, and then we will make our pouch, and then we'll top stitch the rest of it. But this is really important that you do this first. Okay, so we've top stitched that all together now. So that is it. Our little pouch is finished. We can pop our iPad into that, or our tablet, and we're right to go. So, yep, just lining everything up, and there we go. Okay, so thank you very much for joining me today. I really do hope you enjoyed making your iPad cover, and I'd love to see them over in our Facebook group. So if you've made one, by all means post one up. If you've got any questions or anything like that on what size to do for your particular iPad or tablet, leave a comment down below or over in our Facebook group. All the links are down there for you. If you like this video, give us a thumbs up down below and hit that subscribe button and the little bell icon beside it, and that way you won't miss out on any future posts. My name's Nicole Reed for Darvanalee Designs Studio, and I'll see you all again next time. Bye for now.